A successful business doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and persistence, which is exactly what the Coffee and Hustle podcast is all about. Why do we need to talk about the roles of a woman? Well, before you try balancing your job and family, it's essential to define what you want to do with your life, and it's okay not to know that answer. And today I'm talking with Olivia Pirtle, who is a role model for women in modern society that is balancing a very active lifestyle, children, business, and a dedicated wife. So we discuss how do you balance a busy lifestyle with success. Hello and welcome to the Coffee and Hustle podcast. In this episode, we're going to discuss the roles of a woman. I am Carla with Designedbycarla, and joining me on today's podcast is Olivia Pirtle with SES, formerly known as sesworks. She is the corporate resource manager. I can't even get it out right today. So thank you, Olivia, for joining me on this podcast. So can you give us a little insight about what you do and how do you manage your day-to-day? And also include how do you balance that out. So give us a little insight about you.
Okay, so just at SES or in life in general?
Just life in general or about SES as well.
Okay, so my parents were the ones that started SES Works in 1987. So I've kind of been running around since I was in diapers, and I've been the catch-all, honestly, of like whatever role needed to be filled. I've done everything from signing checks and helping with accounting to now I do more of like the contracting and help with the social media. I am a mom of two, and I'm getting my master's. I actually graduate in less than a month with my master's in counseling. So I've stepped back a little bit. I'm not quite as full-time at SES. My boss has been super.
So we talk about the name SES and SES Works, and where did the transition come from when we talk about SES to SES Works? Because I think what we had previously discussed is that you had to pivot during COVID, during the pandemic. So tell us a little bit about SES Works before now we are transitioning into the SES.
So it was originally Southern Convention Services when it started, which was like really old school, and it started as a trade show, an exhibit company, and then along came COVID and trade shows went away. People don't see each other face to face for 2 years, and we had to get a little creative. So we got into cabinets and we do branding, so we had to catch people's attention. So we went back to the original letters. SES Works was more of a...
So when you're talking about SES Works in the trade show industry, you guys are starting to ramp that back up, and you're back into doing trade that now. So that's becoming very popular too.
Right. So we have both cabinets and trade shows. Right
so
now.
You guys are extremely busy.
We are, which is great. We love it. It's
and
nice.
So when you talk about cabinets, are you doing cabinets for commercial, residential? So what are you doing right there?
So it started out a little bit more like schools and hospitals, surgery centers, that kind of thing, and now we've gotten into residential, and we really love that.
So it went from the industry-driven stuff into more the residential aspect.
Right.
So what kind of trade shows, I'm interested in the trade show part. Some of the bigger companies, who have you done trade show exhibits for?
So locally, we were just at Quad A in Nashville, and we had SCI, and we have Pinnacle, we have Griffin Technologies, lots of local companies that we've been partnering with for a long time.
And you guys build them, you transport them, you
build
set them up?
Yeah, set them up. I install and dismantle.
So y'all basically, and you store them too, right? So you guys do a little bit of everything when it comes to that. So how's that transition happening within the company? How's that happening? Has it been smooth? Has it been some, do you have certain people who work on the SES Works side of things versus the SES part?
I think all of it's been lumped into SES now, but we used to have people that just did trade shows, and then trade shows went away. So now we're having to diversify people a little bit, and we have like the cabinet team, and we're bringing back the trade show team. So just really exciting to have people doing both again.
Well, that's great because, especially with, the pandemic, if things kind of went away for you or became static for you guys learned how to move around that. So whose idea was it to come up with the cabinets?
I think we built displays for companies for forever, like Torch Technologies. We did their Freedom Center. We did cabinets and displays and things to show them off, honestly. And we loved it. We loved doing customs. And it was just an idea of like, what if we develop this? And then trade shows went away, so we got to practice it in real life. Yeah. And then they're coming back, and we still love it. We're pretty good at it. We have a great carpentry team, and it's just fun to get to do both revenue
Well, that's
streams.
good, because then that gives you all these options too, because if there's ever, if one part of the business doesn't take off, the other one can build, kind of be that pivot off each other. So that's good that you guys have transitioned. Not a lot of businesses were able to do that, and so kind of think outside the box. And so, and how many years has SES been around?
I think this is our 1987. So what? 31st year, I believe.
Yeah, so you guys are going to celebrate this year?
We're planning to, yeah. We're really excited.
Throw a big party for everybody.
That's the goal. We're trying to convince our owner.
Yeah.
The bigger the better.
Yeah, the bigger the better, right? So let's talk about the roles of a woman. And I do want to talk about these things with you because you are like many hats day to day. So you have to put on a different hat because you are involved in so many things. So what is that driving force for you to keep you going? Like, what makes you do all the things? And we're going to list those out in this podcast today, because balancing all that is such a big, heavy lift for you. So how do you do that every day? How do you put on those hats?
So we have this phrase in our family. We say big life. We don't like to be bored. We don't like to stay home. We love to be out and about and be with people doing things.
So is that something that your parents previously were involved in, and so they kept you that? So that's the energy where you're pulling that from?
Absolutely. My dad obviously started SES, so he started from nothing and worked really hard, and I've had that model to me for a really long time. They were actually missionaries overseas, so I've lived overseas. I've worked in the business. I've done whatever needed to be done. We have this phrase where family holds back when there's not enough, and then family's just always going to be there. So it's always been family-centered, and we've always been big achievers, have big goals.
That's a blessing, and it's because not a lot of people have that, driving force, and sometimes they either have it or they don't, and you seem to have it, and so that's a natural aspect with you. It just becomes natural for you.
I can imagine, yeah.
And a lot of times people ask you, like, how do you do it? And you're like, well, I don't know any other way, right? Do you feel that way sometimes?
Often, yeah.
Yeah, because people go, well, how do you balance, to be all of these things and still keep... Do you feel overwhelmed some days when you do these things?
Some days, but I can't really imagine not doing it. Like, what would happen if it didn't all get done? So you make it work.
Yeah. And do you have those people tell you to slow down?
A lot, yeah.
And how did that make you feel when they tell you to slow down?
They don't get it.
Yeah.
There's some things I want to accomplish.
Yeah, and you still have other dreams. So once things are accomplished, you're already working on something else, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely.
You got those little secrets. You're keeping them behind, yeah. And so what motivates you? Like what makes you motivate you to do these things? Do you know what that feels like?
So my husband's the same way. We want so much more than we have now. Why would we not work for it?
Yeah.
And we get that hard work is involved, and it's fun to both pull the same direction.
That's awesome, because not a lot of people have that. Some people take the route of like just barely getting by, making that paycheck to paycheck, but you can do whatever it takes, right? Not everybody knows your story, so knowing that you've got parents that give you that motivation. Do you feel like that's going to also help you feel like that if you did this, your daughters will see that with you as well?
Definitely want to model that for them. I mean, I don't want them to grow up and I want them to have the desire to achieve more, and especially as females, I feel like in this culture, like there's so much opportunity that is missed, and I want that for them. Yeah.
Well, I think also, if, I came from my father was also an entrepreneur, and so he instilled that, like, it's either you do it or you don't, and you feel that way too when you come to that. Your dad instilled that in as well.
Oh, absolutely. His work ethic is unparalleled.
Yeah. Did you see, is it kind of like one of those things where he walks in the room and everybody kind of knows him? Yeah. He's just, to me, it's like that's respect. And because, back then they didn't really have entrepreneur books for those people.
Oh, not right. Exactly.
They failed and then they get back up and they put their, big britches back on and, one leg at a time. And then you're like, how do I figure this out? Because, you're not guaranteed a job every day.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're an entrepreneur. Business owners, we wake up every morning going, do we actually have business to come to? Do you feel that sometimes?
Sometimes. At SES, I've seen my dad live that. And then my husband and I have a small burger restaurant now. Same thing of like, if we didn't do it, it wouldn't happen. So it was a great purpose.
So let's talk about you graduating in May. You're getting a master's degree.
I am.
So what are you getting your master's degree in?
I have a master's degree in biblical counseling from Dallas Theological Seminary. And it's just always been one of my lifelong dreams of
So this has been a passion for you?
Absolutely. Counseling changed my life, and I would like to help others as
Yeah.
well.
And I take it that you've been interning, right, at the Huntsville Professional Counseling right now. How many hours do you put into that?
A lot. I don't really know where they all come from, but probably 20 to 30 hours a week.
And do you do this in your sleep?
I don't sleep a lot, but
yeah, I understand that. It's relatable because you wake up every morning going, did I get this done? Do you go to bed going, did I actually finish? Do you feel accomplished at all when you go to bed sometimes?
Especially on the weekends. Like, I've survived the week and I got a lot done, but I don't always know where all the hours come from. And there's a great accomplishment in helping other people fulfill their dreams as well.
And do you feel like that you helping those people along with that power of inspiration within you, you're hoping that'll pass on to someone else?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in some ways or another, that's a responsibility. I mean, it is a responsibility of a female to continue to inspire others, our youth as well. Do you feel like that mentorship that you're doing, right, is you're hoping that it'll inspire someone else to get involved as well in your local community?
Absolutely. Yeah. So many people poured into me, and it's fun to give back, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. And you guys are such a local entity. You're a great local business, and you guys support that. How does that make you feel to be part of that here? Because you guys are continuing to grow here. But also, we talk about the burger joint that we're talking about, your Dubs. You and your husband do that in Athens, Alabama. So how's that been successful for you guys?
It's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun. We never were going to starve because we always had French fries and hamburgers. That helped a little. But just the community that comes along with that. Athens was really tight-knit. Dubs is very much a tradition. Like, Derek ate there in diapers. We went there on one of our first dates, and now it's such a blessing to be able to continue that.
That, yeah, that
just
tradition.
the family atmosphere, exactly.
And so, who previously owned Dubs before?
The Greenhalls started it in 1961, and then it passed down through their family, and we're the first one out of the family. So we've had it for almost 6 years, I think.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. So, who makes the hamburgers? Your husband does?
We do everything from grinding the meat to producing the burger. So yes, he's involved in all of that. We have a really great team, really great manager right now.
Yeah.
So.
And that's good because you guys can be part of that tradition, keep that going, and that's such a great thing. And that's something did your husband always feel like you were a big part of that, or do y'all feel like that this was something y'all both decided to do at one time?
The restaurant?
Yes.
So he was an athlete previously. He was with Team USA, and it's apparently an athlete thing to retire and have a restaurant. I've never heard of that. But it gave us a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
And be able to be there for our girls, be there for firsts and soccer games. We're really involved in our church and our community, and it just has given us a lot of flexibility where it's a lunch restaurant. So it's open 10 to 3. And it gives us a lot of time for family. We work really hard, and then we play really hard.
And that's really a good thing. Yes, and that's a great thing because that's like you're on the podium to be business, and when you're off the podium, you can still be you and have your good time and enjoy life and family. That balance is so important to you, isn't it?
It's really, really important.
So do you use your weekends to kind of regroup that?
A little bit. So we're open on Saturdays at the restaurant. I'm usually not there. He's there. And then we're really involved in our church on Sunday, but very family focused on the weekends for sure.
And your girls love that.
Oh, they love it. We just have always taken them everywhere. Sorry, you're going. We're working till midnight. You're going to the restaurant. We're whatever. We just
so they get to see this thing that you're designing as a female, as a mom, as a entrepreneur. They're seeing these entire roles, and that's such a great blessing for you. You're able to continue that tradition that your father's instilled in you. Does that feel like that you're representing him like that when you're doing that?
Yes, he took me everywhere as well. So just it's not going to hold any of us back from our dreams. We're still going to accomplish them. We had kids too, not instead of. So they're along for the ride.
Isn't it great to have that kind of role model? And not a lot of people get to have that opportunity to have those kinds of role models. And it's really hard to really understand your value until you have someone that steps up and says, hey, it's okay. You can do these things. And your dad, was that inspiration for you?
It still is, honestly. He's like, why not? So he encouraged me to go back to school. He's helped with everything from helping with the girls to at the restaurant. I have a really big village behind me. And
it takes a lot, right? You feel like that takes up?
Absolutely.
So when you're graduating in May, you finally got your master's degree. What are you going to do with that? What is your next step after that when you graduate?
So the licensing process is a little interesting. You kind of go, as soon as you graduate, you go on immediate break until they process all your hours and your license comes through. So kind of like a forced vacation. Kind of excited about it.
Yeah.
Be nice to have a little bit of a break. only have one job for a minute, but the goal is to practice with Huntsville Professional Counseling going forward. It's all telehealth, which is unique and been an adjustment, but I really love my clients. I have a 91-year-old and a 4-year-old, so really wide range of client ages and life stages.
Because I think that's what they say, that mental illness in our workplace and at home during COVID, it's been really high. And so people getting into this field or in this field have seen that increase. Have you seen that as well?
Absolutely. Even just anxiety and stress and not knowing what to do with it. No outlets to get it out. People just need to talk, honestly.
Yeah. And you're a brave person to take on that role. Because I know that when some people come to you and you're having to take on their burdens too, can that be a little hard for you as well?
It can be really heavy. I've had to learn how to take care of myself better so that I'm not pulling from empty and I'm pulling from overflow.
Yeah.
Or it's really draining because it's more than just my own burdens.
Right, and you're trying to balance that in your house with your children and your husband, and you're having to take on this role too. Do you feel like that continuing this path is what you're meant to be and what you're going to do?
I was definitely designed to be a counselor. I see that more and more. I'm very thankful because I went to school for a really long time if that's not a good fit. But
and sometimes we just don't find our passion until we fall into it, I guess. I would say that we fall into our passion. I think, find what that niche is, because it's all important that we don't become robots.
Right.
We've got too many people in this industry that we just wake up every morning, we put on our shoes, we go into work, and we become these robots. And we let, I think, 10, 20 years go by, and we're like, realize that, do we wake up?
Right.
And you wake up at such a, you really are discovering who you are. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that's important for you?
It's fun to come into my own, finally find my footing. It makes me a better employee at SES because I'm enjoying what I'm doing on the side. I have a really supportive boss that has been really helpful along the way, very gracious, very kind, and I think it makes me a better employee when I'm there.
Did you feel like at some point in time in your life, did you feel like that there was a transition that you was going through to get where you're at today?
Like professionally or personally?
Personally. Because being a role of a mom and balancing all the things that we have takes a lot of energy out of us, right? And so we have to pull from something to get where we want. And some days may not be the greatest days, or some days may be the hardest days for us. And so we have to lean on certain things. So did you feel like there was a transition to get where you're at today? Do you feel like that was a part of you?
Absolutely. I think a lot of it was faith. My faith has always been really important to me. But also having children it's not just for me anymore. I wasn't sure I was designed to be a mom. And now I love being a mom, and it gives me a lot of fulfillment and purpose, and they're watching all the time. Yeah. So why would I not want to chase my dreams? Why would I not want to be the best employee? I want to model that for them now, so that I don't want to reteach later.
Yeah, because I think we're all like, are we getting it right? I think we question ourselves. I don't know about you, but I do question myself almost on a daily. I think I have my own conference calls. I think it's like if I'm talking to myself and I'm answering myself, which is usually some things happen like that. We have to give our own pep talk. Do you feel like you give yourself a pep talk every day?
I do, and then almost permission to fail of you're not going to be the best all the time, but you can pick up and start again, and there are people like you that are in my life that critique and push me to be better. And
do you feel like I'm that role model for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Professionally and personally.
Wow, that is so, that's such an honor to hear that, because you try your best, right?
Mm-hmm. That's all you can do.
That's all you can do. Right. And you learn from your failures, I think, at the same time. I think that sometimes I'm like you. When I first got pregnant, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? Mm-hmm. And because I didn't have that, I don't know, motherly instincts they say they come natural, but do they come natural? I don't know. But I think I remember one time my daughter was laying, I was trying to work, and she was sitting, she was little, and I was giving her a popsicle. And I had her in this little cushion, and she was sitting on it, and and it was dripping all over her face. And she, I go in there, and it's just all over, And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I left my daughter in this messy situation, but she was enjoying her life with this little popsicle. And I'm thinking, it's the little things, right? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like those little things add up for you? Yeah,
I think I would. You could get caught up in I missed this or I missed that, or they're at childcare instead of me being a stay-at-home mom. And there are days I wish I was a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to miss things, but I'm really purposeful with the moments I do spend with them, and those little moments really do add up.
Do you feel guilty that you're not always in the kitchen baking cookies?
Sometimes, but Just that big life perspective of like all the things I can still accomplish even as a mom.
Yeah. It's okay to go to Publix and buy cookies instead of buying, making them.
I do that a lot.
Yeah. Because you have to pick the times to be a mom, and then also you got to be a wife. Because you got to remember you're in love with the man that you married initially, right? And then you got to also spend time with him. Do you feel like that you have time for that too as well, being a mom?
I haven't always succeeded at putting the order correctly.
Yes.
But my husband is wired much like I am, and that helps because we're both driven and we both have goals and we take turns. So
yeah, and he's
first.
He's an amazing individual. He just came back from Ukraine.
He did. He was serving with refugees in Romania and Ukraine and fulfilling, his God-given calling. And
wow.
It was a really cool way to support him. I wish I could have gone. I grew up in Europe. I wish I could have gone, but honestly, the girls were the biggest reason. They need to have one living parent if something happens.
Yes.
So
I know that had to be very stressful for you, and you having to manage that along with everything else that you're doing, because you had to run the restaurant, you had your daughters, you had to keep your house in check, your sesworks, your clients, and then wow, that stress factor probably weighed a little heavy on you, did it not?
It was heavy, but there was also great fulfillment in like, because I am able to do this, he's able to go, and that's my sacrifice. That's my way to give back.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
it's like to be honest with you, it's almost similar to a military wife when their husbands are off doing their duty. It is our job to keep it as sane as possible so that they could go out and not worry about us. Right? That's a strong woman. And that's hard to find. Those strong women are hard to find, to be honest with you. And you are an incredibly strong woman. And you have to own that. So I commend you for that. So an incredible aspect about you that, like, when you walk in the room, it's just like, I know who you are. So you continue that and support your husband in that aspect. So I commend you for that. And it's incredible that your husband definitely went out and did that. So tell him thank you for that.
Oh, I'm really proud of him.
Because we all need people like that, that are not afraid, that'll stand up for what they believe in and give back to those that are in need. And your husband did that, along with you did. So him being gone doesn't mean that you didn't sacrifice. So when you're trying to fit your schedule, I want to talk about your schedule just really quick. Do you keep a calendar? Do you keep? Yes. How do you track your schedule?
So I have like an old school paper calendar.
So you write everything down?
I have to.
That's amazing. Do you? Yes.
I will. So
digital
calendars are great, but
yeah, I'm a firm believer of writing it down. I think it just makes it, when you write it down, it makes it real. Do you feel that way too?
Same way with like a to-do list of, it won't happen if it's not on my list. Sorry, I forgot you. So
I am not capable of keeping it in my brain anymore.
Same. So
and as you get older, it gets worse. Just saying.
And all the little people's things that are going on.
Especially when your daughters get older, you're just like, okay, I think I'm busy now. I think high school is when it gets really busy. And that's when things go. But at least you're getting a lot of things accomplished now, right? And then as you get into your routine and get things going and your daughters get older, you'll figure out who you are again. Do you feel like that you're constantly changing who you are?
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to having some free time, whatever that looks like after school. I think I'll fill it with something. But yes, always evolving, always, what does it look like today?
Yeah. Do you feel like the role of a woman is so important these days more than ever?
Especially to my family, yes. I feel like the definition of woman is changing constantly, especially in the marketplace. And it's such a place to shine, but we don't always... You have to own it.
But do you feel like that women in business support each other?
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to surround myself with those women. Like, I don't have time. I'm over the high school drama, like backstabbing. I ain't got time for that.
Yeah, and I think that sooner or later you have to kind of pick and choose who those people are in your circle, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You don't, and get rid of that negativity. Do you feel that way?
And even people that complain or don't get it or say I don't have enough free time or why wouldn't you make time for me, like they don't understand all the things that you're balancing, and you just need everybody on the same team, like pulling in the same direction. And
those people come around when you make time and space for them.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, but they don't always understand, right?
It's okay, they don't have to. That's my life. I was called to this, not them.
Right, and you have to make those adjustments, and they're hard decisions. Do you ever feel like you're lonely?
Sometimes I feel like I dreamed really hard for this, and I worked really hard for it, and I've had a team and a village, of course, but it's only sometimes.
Only sometimes. It's just a very small,
super small.
It's like that small insert of like, oh, I feel lonely. Why do I feel lonely?
Yeah. The more I walk in my calling and what I feel like I was designed to be, the less lonely it is because I'm feeling that time.
So you're feeling more comfortable in owning it.
And who I am as Olivia and what that looks like.
You're becoming that little diva.
I'm not a diva. But
I mean, a diva in a good way, like I guess I shouldn't use it that way, but I think in some ways or another, we have to own it to believe it. And you feel that way.
I worked really hard for this dream. I'm really proud of
I think you're absolutely. I think your dream should be yours and yours only. And because in some ways or another, we have to be somewhat selfish. Do you ever feel like that you're everybody else but not Olivia?
I feel like you can get yourself out of whack, or like family time is important. And just prioritizing what needs to come next is hard for me sometimes. Like my daughter's first soccer game is tonight, and I'll be there. I'll move heaven and earth to be there, but that's not always the first priority.
Yeah.
So trying to make her feel important, but still accomplishing our dreams as a family, our goals, and what we're called to.
I read a book from Rachel Hollis, Girls Stop Apologizing, because we have to stop apologizing for who we are now, because we have such huge expectations now, more than ever. And do you feel like that you're overwhelmed with a lot of these expectations? Sometimes.
I'm getting better about letting it roll off my back, and your expectation isn't my expectation. I don't answer to you. So I answer to me in a lot of ways. I answer to God. At the end of the day, I have to live with me, not you. So I'm getting better at that.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. We don't always recognize that. I think that sometimes we get so wrapped up in trying to please other people, and that we become people pleasers.
I've been that.
And then, do you feel like you've been in that situation?
I've struggled with that before. I'm getting much better about if I made myself happy, if I made my family happy, if I prioritized correctly, like that's good enough.
Yeah. I mean, and I think there's that point in time where I think once a year I always reevaluate who I am and figuring out like what makes me tick. And I'm not made for everybody, and I actually am okay with that now. I felt like that I always had to please people to like me, and I realized that I was going about it the wrong way. And do you feel like at some point in time, do you feel like that drama, when you get out of that drama, that you tend to like evaluate who you are during that process?
I think that's something Derek and I do really well. We evaluate probably once a month what's important to us, and we try to focus on those things. And then anything that doesn't fit in that, like I'm done apologizing. Sorry, you don't fit. This is what we prioritized.
And they don't always understand.
And it's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings like it used to. When I was trying to figure out who I was, I feel like it used to hurt my feelings a lot more.
Yeah. And sometimes, you just kind of realize it, and it's those steps that you take. I think as you get older, I wish that to be honest with you, I wish that I had what you guys have back in my day when, having the guidance and the people that were those mentors and leads for us, because, I didn't have that when I was growing up. We didn't have a lot of female roles that we could look up to. And now we have just so many things that we can, we have to pick and choose what those role models are. And I think that that's important, getting through the aspect of like, who's a proper role model? Who's that role model for you?
My mom, in a lot of ways, has really just been that, modeled it. She worked when we were little. She's been a stay-at-home mom. She homeschooled us. We moved overseas. Been really blessed to have both parents super involved in my life, in my faith, in my marriage, all the things.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone that doesn't have that?
I think it takes a village, but you get to pick your village. If you don't have the family or the people in your life, like, be very intentional about finding them and putting them there. And you don't have to be related to them. Like, people in your church, in your community, they exist. You have to ask them. You have to be brave enough to ask.
Do you feel like that everybody has good in them?
I think they have the potential for it, absolutely.
They have to recognize it. And if they recognize it, they'll and really focus on that they can accomplish anything in their life.
I think so, absolutely.
If they, because it takes hard work.
Oh, it does. Oh, you have to be willing to put in the work, and
a lot of people
don't show up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And work ethic is definitely better if it's modeled. You can learn how to have a good work ethic, but if you've had it modeled, it's a lot easier. But you can learn.
Do you feel like that it's really important to have that work ethic? Because do you feel like that people have it now, or there's just a lack of it?
I think there's a lack of it coming out of COVID and children being at home and not having to have done anything, and so much focus on technology and less human interaction.
Yeah.
But I think you should always have to learn how to be responsible for money and relationships, and a lot of that's parenting.
Yeah.
But if you didn't have those parents, I think you could still accomplish that, still have it.
You have to recognize, I think, that if you don't want to be that person, you have to be willing to put up the time and space to, figure out what you don't want to be.
And have the ability to hear no, and that's not how you do it, and be critiqued. I feel like,
I don't think a lot of people want to be critiqued.
No, and you've probably heard the phrase like teacup freshmen. People get to college and then they can't handle anything because they've never been told no. They've always gotten what they wanted, and it's so easy
I've
to
never
hurt their
heard of
feelings.
that phrase before. You called it a teacup freshman?
Teacup freshman, but I see it a lot in like people coming out of COVID of like nobody's told them no in 2 or 3 years or corrected them with a good heart. Like, learn how to accept criticism, like positive criticism, and that not everybody's out to get you, and people want good in you. Like, find those people that can critique you and you can listen to and not be offended by
critique.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so important because we have to listen to what our voices are telling us inside, because I think that's something that we don't take time out for because we try to stay so busy.
It's hard to find quiet.
That quiet time is important. I think people are afraid of that quiet time.
Yeah, I think they're afraid of us going back to not having community, and now that reminds them of that. Maybe there were some bonuses to being alone during COVID. Like,
I was okay with it.
Yeah, I liked parts of it a lot. I was pregnant during part of it, so it was really great from a germ perspective. But even like getting back into the rhythm of work and life, and telehealth, I feel like came out of that. I wasn't super pro telehealth prior to COVID, and now I'm getting used to it. It feels different.
Well, I think that, and in some ways, that telehealth, though, also brought people out that would never have gone to to get the counseling they need, because absolutely. I think there's a high percentage of males that won't even get the counseling. But with telehealth, it gives them the option to not have to walk into an office and see people, see them.
Right. You can wear your sweatpants. You can show up. Just show up, roll over and show up.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just don't. But I also think that it let people recognize that they did have mental health issues.
Oh, absolutely.
That they didn't recognize before. It gave them a chance to reevaluate themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Even for just loneliness. Like, I don't have any friends. I don't have anybody to talk to. Yeah.
So do you, I know we talk about you making time out for yourself. What are some of the things that you like to do just for you, Olivia? Just not mom, not wife, not professional. What does Olivia like to do?
So Olivia likes to run. I ran a half marathon on Sunday and didn't train enough because my husband was overseas. So I'm really sore. So I'm regretting that a little bit. But
we were talking about that. You were having problems walking up the stairs, but
it was painful.
I told you just to scoot down.
Right.
Scoot down the stairs. It's okay. Don't be embarrassed.
But I love to run. I love to listen to music and podcasts. I love to read. Reading is really important to me. I think that's how I can further my education in and out of school. Mm-hmm. And I just try to read. I would try to read about a book a week.
Yeah.
And find the time to do it in and around kids and family and work.
And so what kind of books are you reading right now?
Everything from self-help to, I like religious books. I love biographies. Biographies are awesome.
What is one of your favorite, do you know one off the top of your head?
So I just read one on Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I just read, I think it's called 1942, historical.
Yeah, I heard that one's supposed to be really good.
It's massive, but it was amazing. I'm fascinated with, like, Columbine fascinates me from a psychological standpoint. Yeah. I just read a huge biography on that and, like, the mindsets behind the people involved, and I love that. I love bettering myself and pouring into that.
And I think reading is such a great way to escape.
It is.
And it also gives us a chance to rethink our own mindset, because it really allows us to kind of just take that moment where we're not thinking about work or school or anything else, and it just gives us that ability to really be able to develop our own personality. So I think reading is good. Do you do digital books? I mean, do you listen to books or do you read them, actually physical books?
I prefer the paper book, but I do Audible some. I'm in the car a lot. I live a long way from all the places that I work and I'm involved in, so I try not to waste the time. I want to listen to a book or learn a language, or I just try very hard not to.
So what's your favorite podcast?
I really love, like, crime, murder,
right?
All that.
And you should say Coffee and Hustle.
Well, duh. That's an obvious, right?
So, and so those are really good. You love the crime ones?
I do. I just fascinated. The psychology part of it is just fascinating to me, like the hows and the whys and what got us to this point. And
why did they get into the situations they're in?
What happened? What broke? Did they not have support? Like,
do you feel like that a lot of people kind of slip into that world because they don't feel like they have a way to get out?
I think a lot of it is just desperation, which is sad to me. Like, I have such a heart for people to not feel that way.
Yeah. So, if you had 30 minutes, so we talk about this, 30 minutes of free time, how would you use it?
I'll probably run for part of it and then write in my journal, spend time outside. I love to be outside, anything outside. So
you're an outside person. Do y'all like to go hiking?
We love to hike.
That's where y'all take the girls and go hiking.
We try to be outside as much as possible. We run, we walk as a family, we do picnics. It's fun. It's a
That's
fun way
amazing.
to them and get some fresh air.
Yeah, so you're trying to make them outside children?
Yes, we try really hard not to be glued to screens. We don't have iPods or pads, or they've never had any of that. We don't plan on them having it. We try not to watch TV. Just be very intentional with that. And
I know people like that. So to be honest with you, I mean, I was very strict with my kids like that. We didn't have TVs in their bedrooms. Computers they weren't allowed to game during the week except on the weekends, and they were allowed only like 2 hours if that. But they had to be outside and play. And
kids don't do that anymore.
I wanted them to use their imagination. I wanted them to read. I wanted them to have hands-on activities and things like that. So and I think that's so important. Even though I was a working mom, and
it's hard. It would be a lot easier to put them in front of a TV screen.
Absolutely, but I never did. I always had some sort of school moment where it's like, okay, we're going to learn this while I'm doing this work over here. I'm having this conference call. I want y'all to be working. Show me how you can do some Play-Doh.
We do a lot of crafts and Play-Doh and painting, and it's fun for them to do together. And it's not TV.
So what is something that you failed at? Do you want to talk about failure?
Sure. I feel like I failed at a lot of things. Right off the bat, so my parents were missionaries overseas. I came back to college, and it was just a horrible transition. And I went to school in Chicago at a dream school of mine. I wanted to go to Moody Bible Institute my whole life, study counseling. It was one of my goals. And I was diagnosed with an eating disorder freshman year of college and hospitalized, and never finished my freshman year. I never went back.
Wow.
It was just like, I'm sure people wonder what happened to me. I just never came back.
So let's talk about that. So we just went from, you went to your dream school, you were working on your degree, and then we went from that to talking about that first year going an eating disorder and putting you in the hospital. How did you overcome that? Like,
similar to now, honestly.
Was that depression?
Definitely some depression involved. I am a perfectionist, and I expect the best out of myself, and I wasn't doing my best.
You put a lot of pressure on you.
Put a lot of pressure on myself, but also running can go too far. Addictive personality of I ran myself to death and didn't eat, honestly, and that's addictive, and people's attention mattered a lot to me then, and people pleaser from way back. So that all kind of came to a head at the same point, and I didn't make it through my freshman year, and it was super embarrassing for a long time. But I think I learned that I have a village, and I have an incredible family and support system, community that poured into me, role models that I almost forgot that I had. That I ended up finishing here at UAH and University of Alabama, and now I'm in grad school. I mean, by the grace of God, honestly, but just how far it's come. And when I say team win, graduating with my master's, I mean it. Like, there are so many people that have helped me, come alongside with me, watch my kids, help me financially, and just poured into that. And so it's such a feeling of accomplishment because I've come so far.
So it's congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved. Because you could have just hung up your hat and said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore.
I thought about it. There were some days in there where I was like, I ain't doing this. But that's honestly how I got involved in counseling. Is I have a long-term counselor. I think I've been seeing her for like 14 years. That had just poured into me during that time, and now we're buds and honestly colleagues because I'm going into the same field. Yeah. But just how much of a difference one person pouring into your life can matter.
It does. And it makes such a big difference and an influence. And when you hold on to that really just turns your life around.
It is.
So I commend you for that, because that had to have been a very scary moment for you, to know that you had worked so hard to get somewhere, and then all of a sudden it just went a different direction. And you know what? Sometimes we may look at defeat as something that takes us down, and that's got to be such a short period of time for us when we know that we can stand up on our 2 feet and go, okay, this didn't work out the way we had envisioned, right? Because you had this vision, and now you went into a different direction, and now you're still accomplishing your dream. That is something that you have to commend yourself, and you're doing it with a family.
It's a little crazier. It would have been easier prior to kids, but it bigger sense of
Do you think that if you would have kept in that direction that you were going in Chicago, your life would have been a completely different direction for you?
It probably we would have had similar leanings. If I still love psychology, still love people. I've always been interested in like Bible-related things, but I probably wouldn't have come back to Alabama. I probably wouldn't have met my husband. Definitely wouldn't have the kids I have.
Yeah.
Gotten to be more involved at SES with my dad, which has just been such a privilege of getting to do that. So no, probably would look completely different.
Sometimes it's like, it's one of those moments where, you know, it may be the hard part to look at, but it's also probably what came out of that was so positive for you. Mm-hmm. And that's such a great thing, because you're still who you are and you're stronger with these things that you've learned from. And that's something, as a female, we either defeated and we lay down and just continue to be defeated. Mm-hmm. Or we look and go, you know what, this is not going to stop me, and that didn't stop you. So
it's really giving me a heart for other people in similar situation as well.
And it's relatable. Mm-hmm. Well, we all have a story, you know, and how we tell our story and what we've gone through. Life is not always easy for, you know, if we think about it, but it's all about learning lessons from each other. And you're definitely that, you know, an exceptional person to know that you're definitely rolling out this balance of being of this person that's being, you know, you're graduating, you've got a husband, you've got children. A lot of people cannot even but think about balancing that. So I commend you on being able to do those things. So I think that the last question I'm going to ask you is how do you define success for you?
I think success morphs. I feel like a lot of it is seeing potential and running with it the best you can, and people calling it out in you along the way, and then taking the little victories. Little victories are a really big deal to me. Like celebrating we passed the test, we survived the test, the kids are still alive, everybody's still breathing.
Everybody's fed, you got a house, you got clothes, you're blessed, you've got all these things going with you.
Great community.
Great community.
Right, all that matters so much to me. Now, looking back, I don't think I celebrated it enough when I was younger, and now I just appreciate it. I just see so many people that don't celebrate it, and what a difference it is, and how much fun it is. I love to celebrate. I love a good party, so it's just fun. Why not laugh? Why not celebrate?
Yeah. I think that is exactly what you have definitely surrounded yourself with, and you recognizing that's such a great accomplishment on your part. It's a time to celebrate. And when May gets here and you finally walk across that stage, you celebrate again. So I agree with you. Small things matter because they add up to the bigger things. I was listening to this thing the other day. Gary Vee said the definition of success is not about how much money we make, but about what mood we're going to wake up to be that day. It's like, what mood are you going to wake up to? That's going to define your success for that day. And I think that's so important. It depends on who we are. We either let negativity creep in and take control and grasp us. And some days there's going to be those bad days, but you have a time limit on that. And so, but reflect-wise, you have such a blessed life. And so I'm really proud of you. Anything else that you want to share with us at all, Olivia? So great for coming on to the podcast. Thank you those for listening today. And this is a great podcast for those that are understanding the roles of a woman. And join us again on our next podcast. Thank you.